All right, today we're diving deep into a huge topic, decentralization. It's a word you've probably heard thrown around a lot, this big promise to take power away from the tech giants and hand it back to us. But what we're going to see is how that big, beautiful dream is smashing right into a super complicated reality.
So what does that really mean for us? Is this the future of our online freedom? Or is it this big paradox that promises one thing, but, delivers something totally different? To figure that out, we first have to understand the problem it's trying to fix.
Okay, so to really get why everyone's so excited about decentralization, we first got to look at the problem it's trying to solve. Why is there such a massive push for an alternative? Well, it all boils down to the risks of our current centralized world. I mean, just think about the internet as it is right now. You've got a few massive companies that basically own our data, they get to decide what we see and what we don't, and they can totally silence voices they don't agree with. Plus, they've got these single points of failure. If one of their main servers goes down, poof, whole services can just disappear. The bottom line, we've pretty much handed over all the control. So, if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, this is where that decentralized dream comes in, a completely different vision for how our digital world could actually work. At its heart, decentralization is really just a massive power shift. Instead of one company or one government holding all the keys to the kingdom, control gets spread out across a whole network of users. This is all made possible by things like blockchain technology, which use these shared, unchangeable records to create a system that runs on agreement from the group, not orders from some central boss. And look, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky idea. People are seriously getting on board. Just look at DAOs. That stands for a Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. Think of them like companies run by computer code and owned by the users themselves. And get this, by 2025, we're talking more than 6.5 million people holding tokens that give them a real say in how these things are run. That is a huge vote of confidence in this whole new way of doing things. And a lot of smart people, like Professor Aymar Jean-Christian, see this as the actual next step for the internet. The whole idea behind what people call Web3 is that our data can be way more secure. And why? Because it's not all sitting in one vulnerable spot. Okay, so if this is so great, you're probably wondering, why isn't everything decentralized already? Well, it's because there's this fundamental challenge baked right into the technology. It's often called the impossible triangle. This right here is the blockchain trilemma. Basically, any network is trying to achieve three things at once. It wants to be secure, it wants to be decentralized, and it needs to be fast and handle a lot of traffic. That's scalable. Here's the kicker. You can have any two of those three things, but getting all three, that's the holy grail, and it is incredibly tough to pull off. Now, this chart, this makes that whole trilemma idea super clear. Let's just walk through it. Scalability, that's just how many transactions per second, or TPS, it can handle. The higher, the faster. Simple enough. Now, decentralization, this is measured by what's called the Nakamoto coefficient. It's a bit of a fancy name, but think of it like this. It's the number of people or groups you'd need to get together to basically take over the network. So for this number, higher is way, way better. It means it's more spread out and harder to attack. Now, just look at the numbers here. All right, let's put two of these heads ahead just to see how this plays out in the real world. So you've got Solana over here. It is an absolute speed demon. We're talking over 1,700 transactions a second. But its decentralization score, only 18. That means you'd only need 18 entities to team up to cause some serious problems. Then you look at Arbitrum. It's way slower, like only 3 transactions per second. But its decentralization score is massive, 2,515. You'd need over 2,000 groups to collude. This is the trade-off right there in black and white. You're basically choosing, do you want to be fast or do you want to be truly decentralized? And here's the really important thing. These trade-offs, they're not just numbers on a chart for tech nerds to argue about. They create these really fascinating, sometimes totally contradictory situations when you actually try to use this stuff in the real world. And that's where we get to the paradoxes of decentralization. So remember those DAOs we talked about? The dream, right, is this vibrant, active digital democracy where millions of people are voting and shaping the future. The reality? Well, on average, a whopping 83% of the people who can vote don't. They just don't participate. So yeah, the power is technically decentralized, but the actual participation is super centralized around a tiny group of active people. It's a huge disconnect. Okay, now for another big paradox. And this one comes from the OG of decentralized systems, Bitcoin. The original idea was so pure, so beautiful.
Anybody, anywhere in the world could fire up a computer and help run the network by mining. But what happened in practice is that this supposedly decentralized system now relies on these massive, highly centralized mining pools. See, mining on your own is kind of like playing the lottery. Your chances of winning are tiny. So what do individual miners do? They team up. They pool all their computer power together to have a better shot at the prize, and then they split the rewards. So the great irony here is that the very foundation of this famously decentralized currency is built on centralized teamwork.
But wait, there's another twist to this story, and it's pretty wild. It turns out the system kind of has a built-in defense mechanism against getting too centralized. What this data shows is that as these mining pools get bigger and more dominant, they start charging higher fees to their members. And that, of course, makes them less attractive. So their growth naturally slows down, which opens the door for smaller, cheaper pools to compete. It's like the free market itself is creating a check and balance. And you know, what's funny is that these kinds of worries, they're not new at all. Believe it or not, there was a World Bank report way back in 1995 that basically warned that decentralization isn't some magic fix for everything. It actually argued that if you give more power to local regions, you could end up increasing inequality. The wealthier areas would just use their new power to make policies that benefit themselves, while the poorer regions get left even further behind. It's a warning that sounds eerily familiar in today's crypto debates, doesn't it? Okay, so all of this, it brings us to the final and honestly probably the most important question in all of this. This isn't just a tech debate anymore. It's about deciding what kind of digital future we actually want to live in.
On one side, you have this really optimistic vision. Someone like Katie Harpoth, who used to work at Facebook, imagines this future where these immersive, decentralized worlds, the metaverse, make these incredible experiences available to absolutely everyone. I mean, think about it. Visiting the Taj Mahal from your couch. It's this idea of democratizing culture, democratizing travel.
But then, on the other hand, you've got a bit of a reality check. And it's kind of funny, but it's also very real. Yeah, the dream of being fully immersed in some digital world runs smack into the messy, unpredictable, and sometimes hilarious reality of, well, real life. And toddlers. And that really brings it all home with this incredibly powerful question from Professor Badia Friedman. The conversation can't just be about what's technologically possible. It has to be about what we as a society want. Does this imagined future, does it actually line up with the kind of world and the kind of people we truly hope to become? So in the end, it's clear that decentralization isn't some magic button we can press to fix the internet. It's a whole series of really tough trade-offs. We're talking speed versus decentralization, absolute freedom versus some kind of practical order. So as we build this new digital future piece by piece, the real question isn't just a technical one, it's a human one. Which of these trade-offs are we willing to make?